Join us on the first Ospreys Eyrie of 2025 with plenty to discuss. We've got new presenters, we've got a winning team, we've got a new ground to discuss, and we've got a look ahead to the rest of the season. So let's get on with it. Hello and welcome to the Ospreys Eyrie 2025, back in business with me, Lee G, and a new team in place. Good evening, Nick. Good evening, Zach. How are we, gents?
Good evening.
Good evening, gents. I'm doing all right. Thanks, Lee. How are you?
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. It feels a little uncomfortable for me being here again. But we'll talk about that bit in a minute. So the first thing to say is that we're back up and running and what have you after a extended festive break with new presenter Zach. So Nick has been on before, but what we'll do is we'll just give people a flavour of both of you, just so they know who you are and what have you. So Nick, give us a quick rundown again. I know we did it on the Toby Booth. So if anybody really, really wants to know about you, they can go and watch the Toby Booth interview, Toby Booth tribute. But just give us a quick rundown on who you are and why you love the Ospreys, mate.
Yeah, well, since the offset of regional rugby, I've always supported the Ospreys. I was lucky enough to work down in Swansea for 5 years. And at that time, obviously, first things I did was buy a season ticket. And now I've come back to North Wales. I'm obviously still an Osprey supporter, and I get to watch them 4 or 5 times a season live. So I've been twice so far this year. So still my team, and always will be.
Oh, okay. So we know that Nick went to watch the New Year's Day game and had a hell of a journey back up. But we'll cover that bit when we get to festive derbies. So, Zach, you're completely new to the pod. First one, welcome to the pod. Give us a little bit of a rundown of who you are and why you love the Ospreys, mate.
Yeah, thank you for having me. As a little back on me, I'm a student-ish in South London, but I've been supporting the Ospreys since as basically as little as I was. I'm 23 now, and I remember going to my first game at age of 6. I think it was Blues away, which I can't even remember the result at this point. It was 2007 or something bollocks like that. I just remember falling in love with them early on, back in the Galactica Zero, watching. I think my favorite player at the time was James Hook, unfortunately. Throw the ball around a little too much, and then I fell in love with Justin Tipperick, and I haven't been able to stop since. It feels weird still seeing him going like as an old man. It feels wrong. Feels wrong.
Well, the one thing that I know that will happen now is in the comments, somebody will give you the score for the Cardiff game
I'd
in the
appreciate it.
70s.
I'd really appreciate it.
Well, you were only 5.
Yeah, and somebody's going to chip in with, "Oh, you remember when Shane Williams made that break down the left?" And they will
No,
fully expect you to
no.
remember it. Yeah.
I will call myself a rugby nerd. I'm not that much of a rugby nerd.
Cool. Okay. So, yeah. So why am I back? So those of you that remember me from the very, very first setup of the Eyrie. So again, now the Eyrie. Now me and Nick are gonna kind of discuss this as we go. Nick says, "How do you pronounce it, Nick?"
Eerie.
Eyrie, and
And
I pronounce it.
I saw, actually, funny enough, I saw something. My other great interest is history. And if you've ever listened to the Rest is History podcast, it's brilliant. And they were discussing the build up to the Second World War, because obviously it's the 80th anniversary to the end of it. And they said, oh, Hitler was up in the Bear Camp and up in his Eyrie. So I'm sorry. I know you've got a Pembrokeshire accent, but these are very learned English men. So I'm going with my Eyrie. I'm sorry.
Okay, you're gonna have to forgive me because I'm into a trench of the Eyrie from now on. But however people want to talk about it, however they want to refer you to it, that's fine. So Yeah, so you might know me from the rap podcast and all that kind of stuff. And I basically started and set up rap and the family. So I'm just back to get you guys up and running for however long you need me to be here for, and then I will step into the background again and disappear, and you guys can say what you want about me when I'm in the background, and it won't be a problem. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm an Osprey supporter. I'm a Scarlet supporter, but I'm going to do my best just to be independent and kind of let you guys talk. But before we started recording, you two started already, so I fully know what to expect
I mean,
as
I did think for half a second I thought you swapped sides. You did say we in the intro, and I don't know who this we is you're talking about.
I very much we as in the family, we the everybody together. Yeah, it is hard. It does get to a bit where you have to be like when I come on, I've done this, I've done Cardiff, I've done Dragons. So and you try and be neutral and all that kind of stuff. And then there's another little bit where you kind of go like, "Well, I could just get a couple of digs in there," but no, and you've got to hold yourself back from it. It's like this natural instinct to just kind of slip something in. But if I do, forgive me. It's banter. Trust me on that. So what I will say is we are looking for additional presenters. So we're looking for somebody to sit in here. 3 is always a good number to do a podcast with. And we're really looking for somebody who is, a regular season ticket holder, somebody who loves a community game. We do a lot of community stuff on our other pods, and they work really well. And it kind of connects the pro game and the local game, and under sevens, under eights. So everybody that plays rugby within the region should be able to have an interest in the pod. So if that's you and you're listening, drop us a line and let's get you on board. What we also do, we also do match day vlogs. So if you just fancy doing a little bit of this is what I did on the day when you go and watch the Ospreys and what have you. Again, drop us a line because they're really good and the clubs really love them. So yeah, anything like that, give us a shout, get involved because the more people we get involved, the easier it is on that. So I've spoken far too much already, gents. I'm going to hand this over to you now. So let's talk Ospreys news. So a couple of bits that I'm just going to throw over to you. And the first bit is how are we feeling about Toby Booth and how has Mark Jones started? So who wants to go first on that?
Yeah, sure, I'll go for it. Uh, I think Toby Booth going is a shame, but it makes sense in the context of the season and how it's gone. It's not been a great start, to put it politely. And I think that the players are maybe having a hangover. I think getting in a new voice just in charge of it, a new voice being able to talk about it, has clearly brought a new energy. I think Mark Jones maybe is living off that energy a bit. A couple, we'll go on to the wins that the performances later, but it's a weird place to put. I can't really judge Mark Jones as of yet. He's very well spoken, and listening to his interviews, I have a lot of confidence in him that he can do the team as well as Toby Booth did in the future.
Yeah, I'd add to that. I totally agree with Zach. Obviously, Toby was loved by the supporters, and had a lot of time for the man as well as the coach. But Mark comes over very well. His CV is strong. It's very varied. Uh, when he's been interviewed pre and post match, he comes over very well. As Zach alluded to, I don't know how much we can put the last two games' performance down to Mark. And I think, in fairness, he wouldn't claim it is down to him because he's had limited time with the players. I think what will be interesting to see is where he's coached in the head coach role in particular before. There's been a little bit more emphasis on keeping the ball alive, attacking, playing a bit wider, and that'll be interesting to see how that develops over the remainder of the season, and particularly I think over the close season when you'll have 5-6 weeks without the pressure of performance week to week, and to see how our game might develop further, ready for next season.
We'll talk about expectations for the rest of the season later. But yeah, I will just drop in that Mark Jones is a Scarlet, and any success that he has will be claiming. So
Absolutely.
let's talk about the background behind you then, Nick, as well, and just progress on that. So New St Helens ground, a couple of things kind of starting to move and what have you.
Yeah,
So
it was interesting. It did go through in front of the cabinet of Swansea Council, the ruling administration there. Happened to know Rob Stewart quite well when I worked down there. So it sounds to me as if, obviously, which is important for any development, that the local council's fully behind it. I think they can see as an opportunity to develop that end of Swansea, which is, and also to work in cohesion and closely with the university. So I think that sort of like a tripartite approach there is very positive. I think people want to just see something actually physically happening. Lance has talked very much about the initial work is going to be around the clubhouse. Uh, the pitch will need to be relocated slightly because those who've been to St Helens or been to St Helens in the past will remember the actual pitch is quite a long way from the open terrace. And he's obviously talked about that needs to be covered, but it also needs to be moved closer to that terrace to give that intimate sort of feeling for supporters. And from what I've heard, the actual work on the ground, so to be very similar to the Hive in Edinburgh, which is next to Murrayfield, where Edinburgh play, can be done quite relatively quickly. I think the biggest piece of work over the summer, well, sorry, it won't be the summer now, the autumn, will be the laying of the 4G pitch, and then I think there's a further phase which is planned, sometime down the line, where there'll be like a barn and training facilities. So eventually they'll move from Llandarcy down to St Helens as well, which again all makes sense. I think as you've gotten the Scarlets, I've been to the Scarlets ground and so on. You've got everything in one place. But for us, the big thing for me is that we won't have a situation we had on Boxing Day, where the Swans have got primacy on the ground, so they had the ground. That's why the Scarlets game wasn't played on Boxing Day. And obviously, we'll have all the takings from the bar and any community use, which is what they want to encourage outside of the Osprey games.
mm. Zach, are you looking forward to you like kind of staying in touch with? Are you planning on actually visiting the new ground when it comes into fruition?
Okay, low bar, Lee. Shut up. Secondly, I've not gone to an Osprey game in a multiple time because I hate the Swansea.com with such a passion. It's such a I'm not saying that, but it's just a horrible day out. I was in Swansea a couple of years ago, mind from go see some mates, and it's just went to see a Swansea uni game at St Helens. It was just a great day out. Enjoyed it a lot. St Helens being right in the centre of town helps so much, and I think it's what the club needs, both in terms of getting fans in the door. So once again, we can shut Scarlets up and make sure Pontcanna stays quiet for tonight, and then be able to both invest in it in the future. At the moment, the Swansea.com is very limiting in what we can do in terms of it's not great for the community, it's not great for anyone, and I think just St Helens is maybe not the complete perfect 180 deal, but it'll be honestly a massive step up and a great way to help secure the club's future in the regional rugby landscape.
And definitely needed. I think the only shame is that it won't be like rebuilt. It
Yeah.
won't be all built already, and then you just move into a stadium. It'll feel a little bit awkward. You'll move into like a half-built stadium, and then end of the season, another bit will get built, and then the season after it. But long term, definitely what's needed. So
To, to be fair,
mm,
that's what Bath have been doing for what feels like the last 20 years. They seem to be doing pretty well.
yeah, I went to the Bath ground when I was playing. We were on tour in Somerset. It must have been God. When was that? I was 15, so that's a good 35 years ago. And they were talking about redeveloping the ground then. There were parts of the ground that were shut off and you couldn't get into it because redeveloping the ground. So yeah, I think that's a bit extreme, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's one of those things. Okay, let's talk rugby. Let's. I may have to mute my mic and switch my camera off at this point. So let's talk festive derbies, boys. Who who wants to start first? Go on, do your best. Let's go with the Scarlets game first. All yours.
Go on, you go first, Zach.
No, I'm going to start it off with. Anyway,
Fair enough. Go on. Yeah, I said I'd
uh,
be.
that was a that was a good way to end the year on a really nice positive. Houston Hopkins deserves that try at the end. He's been so unlucky throughout the year of injuries, and he's been so good, such a consistent performer. It feels great to get that performance in. It may have not been complete, but it was good enough. I think some players really stuck their hands up. Ern Watkin played his best game going forward that I've seen him for about 5 years, which is, I think, he got 3 line breaks in the second half alone. Just inside step constantly, tearing the Scarlets up. I loved it. Every single second of it. The atmosphere was, even for the Liberty, was amicable. And it felt like an occasion that needed to be taken. Scarlets played well, mind, and maybe should have won it, but I'm not going to complain. You know,
Yeah, all I'd add is that we when we come to talk about the Cardiff game, a bit the same. We had chances to make it a little bit easier than we did for ourselves. We're not quite converting pressure into points. I think in any game, unless it's you're way ahead or way behind, there are ebbs and flows in the game, and it's about making the most of the times when your team was on top. And we did, get on top after the sort of the second half of the first half, if you the second quarter even. But we didn't quite convert that into points at times, which has been our part of our problem this season. We're not as efficient quite as we were last year, but we stuck at it. We tackled really well, and obviously Scarlett scored a good try. That was a well conceived try. But what I think we're seeing, and like I say, making my point, going back to my point about Mark Jones, um, I think what's really made a difference is having some of our key forwards back. Uh,
definitely.
I think early on in the season, we've certainly missed people like, well, we didn't play them, Will Griffiths, uh, Rhys Davis, Fender, you
And it
know,
looks very good against Scarlets.
they had that physicality, which we've lacked in some of the games, quite
Yeah,
understandably, and hasn't allowed us to play to our strengths. And we started to see a little bit more of that over the festive games, and to win it as we did, on the 82nd minute. And I didn't hear an awful lot of Sospan Bath at the end of the game, but I can cope with that.
Be fair,
shame.
it was an Ospreys home game, so the fact that Scarlet fans weren't singing was, yeah. I mean, even as a Scarlets fan, the only disappointing thing for me in that game really was the crowd, like the size of the crowd. That game deserves 15,000 people, regardless of where you could play it at the top of Pen y Fan. We should get 15,000 people to watch that game quite comfortably between us. So,
Yeah,
I think we're heading back in the right direction, and it's a local derby. It was edgy,
yeah,
and that's what you want to have. You want that bit edgy. So I'm just looking to see when the return fixture is, because
It's
I
the
think
29th of March.
yeah. End of March, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, that's why I'm just on 29th of March now. Yeah. So that's 3 o'clock kickoff Saturday afternoon. No excuses for that one.
Should be a good
That
crowd for
one,
that.
yeah. You guys will have had a little bit of time to build,
Hmm.
that Mark Jones effect taking effect. We will have had time to solidify ourselves at the top of the table. You guys can look up and see where we are. But it should be another good game. And we said this on Wrap before the festive derbies, that it's a bit of a cliche to throw the phone book out the window, but actually it's quite true. It's you do kind of go. It doesn't matter who's where in the table or how well you've been playing up. That game is the be all and end all
Yeah.
for a lot of us, and some of the other clubs just don't get it. Edinburgh and Glasgow are too chummy for me.
Mm.
There isn't a great rivalry, whereas Scarlets Ospreys is
The proper derby, isn't it?
I
yeah.
think I do think that it's only a proper derby because Cassende wants to go and fight every Scarlet he ever sees, and you know what? I respect it a lot. I did like that Will Spencer was also giving a lot of shit to lots of young Scarlets. It's very fun to see. I'm very proud of him.
Yeah, he's been a
Okay.
good pickup actually, Spencer. I think he's got for him, a really good opportunity. He's on a short-term contract, but allegedly, and I probably don't blame him. Adam's Beard's going to be going to allegedly Montpellier, probably for a loan deal for 2 years, uh, like Nicky Smith is at Leicester. And but he's got he could be a useful squad addition if Adam is going.
Will Spencer has a special place in my heart. Literally, he's my cousin, which
All
feels
right.
really weird.
Well, have a word with him, Zach.
I saw the
Have a word
announcement
with him.
on Blue Sky. It's like, wait, what? I know this guy. I've seen him at Christmas
Yeah,
dinner.
have a word with him. He definitely would do a good
Yeah.
job for us for a couple of years.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Yeah,
Let's hope just Adam Beard stays anyway. I don't
yeah,
know what crime he's committed to make him go to
yeah.
Montpellier.
He might not be welcome there.
All right, let's talk about Cardiff game then, because that was
Yeah.
as I'm
Well,
not going to say it's far away from it, but it was a very different game.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a game of all time. I think my personal highlight of that game was Tom Botham calling Evan Lloyd a child. And I think that's all that needs to be said. There's not much more to it.
I thought, obviously Cardiff started quite well, but we once we got in the game and the run, the Cardiff scrum for me still it's not great, and we got on top, and again we should have put that game to bed in the first half. We had chances, we didn't quite kill the game, and and obviously then the sending off, which when I think I was there, you couldn't quite see it there, but when I've seen it since, we've got to try and rule that out of the game. It was just clumsy. Fender's not a dirty player at all.
I know this.
He's just come late to a situation, and he sort of slipped. But it's not acceptable. But we played very well, and again, give some credit to Mark Jones. He rearranged the team, brought Ratty on, so we could, continue to dominate up front. Dan Edwards did a marvelous job taking the ball at first receiver, and then when Cardiff had the ball being at the other end as an auxiliary fullback. So no wonder he was knackered in the last 10 minutes. But we should have won that game.
I think if we have Dan Edwards on in that last play, he goes for a drop, quite frankly. I'm really annoyed Tipperick didn't go for a drop. The whole point of his retirement season is shits and gigs. I want to see him do the most Justin Tipperick thing possible.
Yeah.
Like he needs to try and one up that Montpellier try he scores.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to do that is by getting an 80th minute drop goal against Cardiff to win it. Like,
yeah. No, it was crying out for a drop goal. Once we batted, we went with a couple of pick and drives. I did understand why we went for the line out because we would otherwise we'd have given the ball back to Cardiff when they'd come in to 15 men.
It wasn't an easy kick either. It's what,
No,
45
exactly.
meters out on the touchline.
Yeah, but we should have, as you say, Zach, it was crying out for set it up, and it 10, 15 yards out and just chip it over. As you say, Tipper could have done it backwards with his back of his heel. The skill set.
So you were actually at the game then, Nick. So what was the atmosphere like? What was the feel amongst the fans, sort of thing?
Well, there were a good few Osprey fans there, around us. Most of the Cardiff fans were fairly quiet, really. I've got this sort of bit of a problem with Cardiff is that they play in fits and starts. They can put 3 or 4 minutes of decent play together, and then they sort of go to sleep. I think I personally feel league position flatters them.
Definitely.
Uh, so much as it begrudges me to say, I think Scarlets are a better team than Cardiff, really, and have more depth. But they are where they are, and good luck to them. But I don't expect the Cardiff, from what I could judge, being in person, being anywhere near the top 4 or 5 come the end of the season.
That bit where you've just said, I think Scarlets should be higher. Now I'm going to clip that.
Yeah,
That's going on socials.
can we get 2 new hosts, please? Please, anyone.
Only because we've had so many injuries.
Yeah, well, again, this is what we spoke about on Rap. The one thing that the Scarlets have done this year is we seem to have escaped massive amounts of injuries, and we've managed to get players back relatively quickly. And that doesn't seem to be the case for everybody else. And like you said, when you're playing on the squad sizes that we all are now, if you get 2 injuries in the same, if you get 2 tight head injuries, that's it. You're done. Where do you go from there? You can't pull somebody up from the academy and go, "Go on, son, stick your shorts on. You're in the firsts next week." Do you know what I mean? It's hard. It's hard. So, but yeah. So, and how was the journey back up? How long did it take you?
I did. We stayed over actually, so we made it. We went for a nice curry on City Road at a watch. So it was all right. It was okay, but it's a drag up to North Wales, obviously. But yeah, but I enjoy as an occasion. I enjoyed it, and glad I made the effort.
Is there such a thing as a nice curry on City Road? Albany Road. Albany Road. I'll give you Albany Road. There's a couple of decent places on Albany Road. City
Uh,
Road.
maybe I've got my geography wrong there. I don't know Cardiff as well as Swansea.
I used to live around there, and I've had a good curry on City Road once,
Yeah.
but I was a fresher, so I don't know if it counts.
Yeah, they don't count. Fresher curries don't count, do they? You could be anything. Right, let's move on then to what we think of the rest of the season, because there's some, do you take a look at where your position in the table is now and go, we're fighting against everybody above us, or do you look at it and go, you take game by game and manage expectation game by game? So, Nick, what's your thoughts on what's coming? What's the key game between now and the end of the season for you?
Uh, I don't think I've got a key game. Obviously, you know, the games against the other Welsh teams are important. I fully expect this to be a lot more competitive and to win more than we lose the rest of the season. We've got, as I've already alluded to, a lot of our key forwards back. We will have Beard back before too long. Hopefully, Derby back as well. So we've got some real strength in our strength to come back. So, we've got some tough away games. We've got a couple of games against at home when I'm not expecting the opposition to be up for full tilt. We've got Benetton, I think, just the week before the Six Nations, and we've got Leinster right during the Six Nations. Obviously, Leinster are a very strong team anyway. However, if anything, if Gatland's anything to go by, we'll have not an awful lot of players in the Welsh squad. So we'll have a decent 15, if not a decent 23. So I think we'll do all right second half of the season, but I still don't think, if you ask me to predict where we're going to finish or points, I think we won 10 games last year. I don't think we'll win 10 games this season. I was looking, we've actually lost one more game at this point than we did last year, including Europe. And obviously we've got the one draw. So I don't think we'll pick up the points. We were talking in the wrap as well about 48, 50 might get you to top 8. I think that would be maybe a push for us. But I certainly expect us to do better in the second half, provided we can keep, have a decent run with injuries than we have in the first half.
Yeah,
What about you, Zach?
I'm inclined to agree. I think the way I'm looking at it is very much game by game. I think we might try and have a go at Europe and probably just send it all at the Challenge Cup. I mean, Newcastle this week coming is imminently 5 points on the table, looking to be grabbed, and then going power away. are they going to put out a full strength side? Mm. And then it's seeing how much you can manage the momentum going into the rest of the season. At the end of the day, if you want to get the Champions Cup next season, the best option might be to go via the Challenge Cup and just try and win the whole thing. Like, I'm not saying sack off the league because no one wants to see the Ospreys finishing in 13th, 14th. But I think if we can get some momentum up in the right places, win a couple of tough games at home, I think that Leinster game screams out for a 60th minute comeback where Ollie Cracknell and Josh Thomas getting charged down just in the last minute. Just feels like it's happening. And no, it was just
Maybe that's the game for Tipper to save his drop goal for. Maybe if you're gonna
Le
do it, you know.
Leinster at
Mm.
home to win it. Yeah, that'd be quite fun. That would feel right. But
So
it's
is
just
it? I mean, you picked out a couple of games over at Leinster and what have you. The two key games come at the end of the season when we all bugger off down to South Africa on the same planes for a couple of weeks. I mean, what a way to finish the season. We're all going to go down to South Africa. I think even the Dragons will be in a position. I think it's so tight now. That table is so tight. And I think there'll be that core bit in the middle, like it was last year,
yeah.
where everyone from kind of 12th will be going into those last 2 weeks going, well, if we can get two wins, we may well make top half of the table. So, are you looking forward to that trip to South Africa?
Uh,
Well,
we've got the
oh,
Sharks away, which isn't fun. We do have the Lions away though, and the last three times we played them, we've got bonus points. So, we can't. It's a bit 50-50, really. I mean, Lions always seem eminently beatable.
I think I
They
mentioned you
were,
off air. I might be going.
yeah, you did, yeah,
For
yeah.
so yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm with Zach. The Sharks are a different team at home when they're Springbok heavy. They don't travel quite so well, but that'll be very hard. But certainly the Lions, it's altitude is winnable. I suppose it'll, as you say, it'll depend what's at stake. If it's just a end of season game, you're 12th in the league. You're not picking your strongest team. You might hopefully be still in Europe. It's a different game too. We need 5 points to finish eighth,
Mm.
uh, and that's a very different scenario.
Mm. It is a nice way to finish the season, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
I know it's almost the wrong end of the season. You almost want to have 2 weeks in South Africa in the middle of the season just so you can work on your tan. But
yeah.
the weather will be kind of picking up here and kind of not so much down there. But finishing 2 weeks in South Africa, a couple of weeks on the beach, bit of safari and all of that kind of stuff. That's not a bad way to finish the season, is it? Yeah.
No, I think for the players as well. It's a totally different environment, isn't it? And all the things you've mentioned early, they're going to be doing, either side of their training sessions, aren't they? So,
Mm.
it's a great experience, especially for the youngsters, to go and play in that environment.
Yeah, and you'll know by then who's staying next season, who's going next season. I suppose that's the only real downside to it is, normally the last 2 weeks of the season you'll play one at home and one away, so you can do a thank you and
Yeah.
away you go sort of thing. I think you guys play your last home game before Judgment Day. I think you
No,
play
I
your,
say
No, it's after. It's
we
after.
got Dragons
is it
Yeah,
after.
which feels very
Dragons
just.
after?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very testimonial-esque
Mm.
in the vibe.
Well, at least you got. I thought the Dragons was before
No.
Judgment Day, and then so maybe it works a little bit like that. But yeah,
Mm.
certainly a fun way to finish the season. Put it that way. So let's talk about this weekend coming then. Um, Newcastle. Uh, if Newcastle make it down, I mean, the weather's meant to be better by the weekend. I will be fair. So they tend not to travel well anyway. But what are you guys making Newcastle? I mean, you've already said there's 5 points there for the taking. I mean, realistically, what are you actually expecting from this game? Go on, Nick. You're ready to go on this one.
As a comprehensive win. They've got a few good players. They've had a few good results at home, but as they don't travel well, and their priority is probably trying to get off the bottom of the English Prem. So they've got one or two good players. Radwan's a really good winger, dangerous, but we can shut him down even if he plays. So it'll be interesting to see who they select, which will give us an indication how seriously they're taking it. And if people like him aren't playing, well, I fully expect this, 5-6 tries.
I don't see Newcastle bringing down their first team. Maybe 1.5 at a push, but it's very much I can just see them concentrating on the league. They have a chance to not finish last in however many long years, with Exeter having a stinker.
Yeah.
It just feels right. At the end of the day, we should be going for something comprehensive. I mean, I'd be wanting to see something comprehensive, taking some momentum from the Christmas derbies
Yeah.
and just putting it into, if not a bonus point, a very convincing and performance.
Yeah.
I just you want to see him put away at the end of the day.
So
Yeah.
are
And
you're
I,
going
I,
fully loaded for this weekend, then you are.
I go a little bit of rotation. Justin Hopkins played. I think he was ill, but he should have played, shouldn't
Yeah,
he, against Cardiff? So I'd give Justin Hopkins another run. Quite happy with spent. Obviously, I haven't heard yet what Fender's his disciplinary hearing, but it's imminent.
I imagine it'll be 2 or 3 games.
I think so as well.
Yeah,
At least that he hasn't got previous, so
no,
it's a
it's not.
positive for him. But he's going to get 3 games,
It
so
has to be. Just say
yeah.
that's
So I'd expect Spence to come back, perhaps. Maybe Will Griffiths, uh, but obviously, what was really positive for me was the game that Ruben and Dan as a pair were superb against Cardiff. So I wouldn't change that.
I just
Uh,
want to see Dan play more. Starboy is
yeah,
lighting it up.
yeah,
He's the URC put out a highlights reel of him
yeah,
last day or two, and
yeah,
it's just fun. It's even got like a Tinas De Beer mockery of him getting a jackal turnover against Cardiff. Like, come on.
yeah. I don't want to play too well because I don't want to go into the Welsh setup yet.
It's Gatland. He's not picking him. He wears black.
But I think that's the bit that kind of we're all doing at the minute. Like I was adamant about this from like last season. The less Scarlets that get selected for Wales, the better, because you need your players there. And if you send 6 players to the Wales squad, 2 of them are coming back with an injury at least, and you're sitting there and you're going like, I think in the autumn international, um, there was 2 Scarlets players. I can't remember who they were. Basically, went and held bags for 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
They didn't get on. They didn't get a cap. They weren't
no,
even on the bench. They weren't in the match
Uh,
day 20. What's the point of them being there? Send them
no,
back.
yeah,
Get the under 20s to hold your bags for you if that's what you want.
yeah,
So
totally.
I fully see a couple of Ospreys players doing exactly the same thing, if not even less.
Mm.
Which is
I
yeah,
think I want to see Dan involved internationally, of course, but I think and the way obviously I perhaps prefer him to be in the squad for the Wales tour to Japan
yeah.
in the
I
summer.
think it's
You
just a
know,
little bit too soon. Throwing him in this Six Nations feels like
yeah, give him
setting up to
give him
failure.
carry on playing for us for the rest of the
Yeah,
season. Maybe go to because he had the concussion. They did invite him down,
yeah,
but he had concussion. So obviously invite him down, get involved, training and so on in the environment, and possibly Fender as well. I'd like to see Fender because I think he's got his ceilings high as
it just
well.
depends if they want to take him. He's not played much rugby recently,
No,
and the
no,
ban presumably incoming is going to limit
yeah,
that even more.
no. I was thinking about
Uh,
just inviting down there,
yeah,
just so he gets used to the environment. But I agree. But yeah, so I'd go pretty strong. Obviously, the other one I'd like to see perhaps starting would be Morgan Morse.
Yeah,
He's come back from injury,
he's looked
and
awesome.
he's an awesome player. He's got so much potential. He's still only 19. I think he's only 20 this month, so he could play for the 20s. So we're to see what Wales do with him, or whether they leave him with us. But his ceiling again is very, very high.
See, but there,
I think with the way Wainwright is playing at the minute, I think he'd be better off staying
I was gonna say,
with the Ospreys and
Oh,
developing.
I meant for the he's still eligible
Yeah.
for the under 20s. So I suppose it's that.
yeah,
But I'd say I think I'd start him on Saturday and
yeah,
put
definitely.
Morgan Morris on the bench the other way
I'd have,
around.
wouldn't be surprised if Harry Deeves got a start as well.
Yeah,
It just feels right for a little bit of rotation.
yeah.
I really want to see Big Sexy back and eat a scrum alive. It's what I live for nowadays.
I'm not even going to start on that conversation, please. We'll leave that one there. Right.
Reese,
So the only thing left to do then is to get some predictions out of you two, some score predictions out of you two for that Newcastle game. So yeah, let's go for actual score predictions. We're not going to do a prediction league or anything. So what's your score prediction? And then throw in there as well a wild incident, something that's going to make you something like the Tippett drop goal. So a score prediction and a wild incident. So Zach, you can go first on this one, mate. Use your
Right.
imagination.
Ospreys 31, Newcastle 13.
And your
Ospreys by
wild incident.
18. Wild incident. I am Newcastle player who plays 20 minutes this season, uh, does a silly tackle, shoulder head, and just goes off very quickly after coming off the bench.
So
2 minutes on, rush above.
2 minutes on, red card off. Okay, cool. Nick, your prediction and wild incident.
We score a driving ball try from the halfway line.
I was going to say you didn't start that one very wild, mate, but from the
Uh,
halfway line, yeah, fair
who
enough.
gets it? Who does it get credited to? Sam Harry or penalty try?
And very close to Zach, I'm going 32-16.
So I'm gonna give you the game as well. I think it'll be closer than you think, just because of the weather and all of that. I'm thinking something 22-24 points to 12, maybe 14, maybe at a push. So it'll be comfortable, but it'll be closer
Yeah.
than you think. And my wild incident is Harry Deeves comes on, and then the ref says something about Wales being kneeling down and bowing at the feet of England, and the hat comes off, and Harry Deeves lamps the referee. So that's my wild card for the weekend. I can't actually see it happening, but I would love to see it somewhere along the
Yeah,
line.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Love to see Harry
Right.
Dees just lamp and Radban, mind you.
Right, gents, we were worried that we wouldn't fit it all in. We fitted it all in quite neatly and fantastic. So, yeah, thank you very much for your time tonight, gents. If you are listening and watching and liking what you are seeing, then please do give us a rate and a review and subscribe on our YouTube channel. It makes a massive difference to what we're doing. If you are interested in joining the team, and doing a better job than me, which won't be difficult, guys. Won't be difficult. So if you do fancy joining us and doing a bit of Osprey stuff, then please do drop us a line and get involved. And in the meantime, gents, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure, and enjoy your rugby. All the best. Cheers.